I'm trying every way I can to get my... Hey, there we are. Okay, we're back. All right, now anyway, let's go to our thing. So as I said, what we have going on right now, where is my thing? We are actually loading things into the table. But you would know because we're not showing anything here. And we also have now a new check where it'll give us error messages as opposed to just these die screens, which I was never into the die screens. Live free or die, but I don't know why this is giving me warnings. This is perfectly fine. But whatever the case, we have now, if we go to our tutorial testing, we have entries. We have 6 entries, but we can't see them. Now, I'm sorry to let you know this, but I'm going to need some assistance here. We can now open up, well, let's open up a div here. And close it. And within this div, we can actually show all our entries as we load them into the table. Now, the way we do that is with time for you to learn loops in PHP. Just like everything else, there are several loops in PHP. There are for loops, which are I equals 0. It's the same thing. I less than or equal to 5. I plus plus. Bada bing, bada boop, bada bop. You can do it that way. You can do a while, whatever. You know, a do while loop. You can do a well, we'll look at all different because I keep forgetting all the loops. Okay, so you have while, do while. Okay, so they're both. So we can do a while loop, which is while this is less than that, blah blah blah. You can do a do while loop, which looks like, I think it's do and then while. Like do is where the condition is. Right, do is where the condition is, while it's the same thing. And then of course there's the for loop, which we've already done, already shown you. Break continue is more like if you need some kind of initiation to stop for this. If this equals then break and do something, like it's one of those. But we're going to be doing a for each loop. Now, the way that you set it up is we have the way you set it up is we have these entries in the table, right? And we already have this object or send stuff which has been executed. Now we can do something else. We don't want to, this is the object that is executing the query. We can't use that. What we want to do is we want to make a new one. And this will be fetched inputs equals. And then we use the con again, because one of the things that they have is the fetch statements. Now, there are several different fetch statements in PHP PDO. There's fetch associative array, fetch both, fetch lazy, fetch object. There's also fetch all. Actually, wait. We have to get it first. Do I have to? Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Prepare. Let's not name this fetch inputs. Let's name this found. So we want to prepare again. Select, and we'll do it easy. Select all from testing. That's all we want to do. And then we want to execute it. All right? If I were to run this, you wouldn't see anything. If I were to just say this and then you wouldn't see, nothing's there. So we have to actually get it. And the way that we get it, we go get stuff equals found, and then we have to do a fetch, and I think we could just do fetch all, and then we would be okay. Yeah, I mean, there's no error message, so we could just do that and we'd be okay. But in this sense, we want to say for each, so we can go through every category or every entry. We say for each get stuff. I'm so used to doing it. Get stuff as GS, I think, right? I don't know. Wait. I think it's. All right, let's try GS as get stuff. I forgot. Let's try that. And then once we're in there, get stuff becomes an array. The for each will loop through in every entry in the array, each and every index, and you can then echo paragraph, and within that paragraph we can concatenate username in the GS username index, then space text place. That's if I referenced it correctly. Now, if you notice, when you're getting anything from an array index, you put it in these brackets and then you put them in single quotes. You cannot double quote this. They have to be in single quotes. But the reason why I concatenated that is because if you don't, it gets kind of weird, because it quotes out the brackets. So you always want to concatenate those so that it knows what the brackets are. Now, hopefully I did this correctly. Okay, now then it is get stuff as. And there you have it. Okay, so let me explain the for each. The way the for each works is you're saying that you have this array. We did the fetch all. You have this array, and now get stuff, you want to name it something else so you can go through each entry into the array, which is indexed by username and text place. That's the way fetch works is it takes the table, I shouldn't have closed that. It takes the table and it turns username into an index and text place into an index. And through each one of these indexes, there's another array that is the entries in the username and the text place. So if they didn't, by the way, whatever. If it didn't index the username and then have a separate set of arrays or entries for each one of these, you would just see username. It would just be username constantly. It would just be text place constantly. So I want to show you what this looks like. Now, let's print our. Now, yeah. Fuck. Print R. I think you're gonna help me, and you do that. Get stuff. Let's print R it before we for each it, just so you can take a look at what it looks like. So as you can see, see how it works? It's an array, and the first index is username, and then that has an index of 0. Then the next one is text place. That has an index of 1. Then the next index is you. So if we didn't have these two arrays, like an array within an array, which I spoke about earlier, you would just see username, and then you would just see text place. But now you can see that each entry has an array within an array. Now, when I was taking computer science 100,000 years ago, that was called a matrix. Not the matrix, a matrix. That was an array within an array. That's what they called it in C++. Now they just call it nested arrays, nested loop, whatever they call it. but it used to be called a matrix, just in case you want some trivia there. So here, this is what it actually looks like. Now again, there are different ways to fetch this. You can also say fetch, and then you can go PDO, fetch assoc. Wait, is that right? Because that doesn't look right. Let me just. It's been so long since I've done this. Did I wait? It was. Yeah. Blah, not that one. This one. So how come you're making weird? I think one of these days I'm just gonna bite the bullet and eat the money and just get PHP Storm. Did I misspell something? And this is good, but so now if we did it that way, you would just get an associative array. And the reason why it's saying can't offset, uncaught type error cannot access offset of type string on string, 61, is because we are, when you do an associative array, you can just do, well here, let me get rid of this. Just 1 second. As you can see, it's an associative array. It's only getting 1 entry per, right? If you did like fetch lazy, it would just be like this query string, and it would look like crap. But the reason why we did fetch all, in which case you don't need this, is because fetch all doesn't associate, it doesn't lazily do it, it just gives you the whole damn thing. And now, at that point, we can do this. Now, fetching an associative array is not a bad thing. That's like if you want just 1 entry, you can do that. I've done fetch associative arrays all the time. But it won't do an array within an array. It's just going to associate 1 bit. Like if you, the positive to that is if you did that, you wouldn't need like if you did here. I can do that, I already did that. If you did fetch PDO, fetch assoc, fetch assoc. Can you fetch a sock for me, please? I need to put one on my foot. If you did that, you can then you have this little array, and you can then just go like this. You can then just go echo P, and then you can go get stuff, username, get stuff, text place, and at that point you don't need to do like if I were to do that in a for each, it would be a mess. Or if I were to just do a fetch all, and try doing that, you get an error message or a warning, undefined key username. So when you're doing fetch all, which is what we want to do, we can now get rid of all this. Let's get rid of all that. What you get is every last entry in there. So fetch all is good if you need every last entry in there. If you just need 1 entry, then you could do fetch associative. If you want a mess, you can get fetch lazy. And then, as I've said, there are other fetch statements. There's fetch both. There's, there are ways that you can fetch the data in this table. And if you wanted, we could pretty this up a little bit. We can go class equals fetched, and then from there we can go to practice and we can say fetched. By the way, that font weight didn't work. Let's say 700. Fetched margin bottom, 10 pixels, font family, Arial, Helvetica, sans serif, font size, 16 pixels, and we could say text align center, just for fun. And wait, this is in the practice, isn't it? Yeah. You bastard. And then you would get like this, you know. And it would look okay, but that's fetching, that's statements, that's using PDO to your advantage. When we come back, I had an idea what I was going to do tomorrow. Let me think. Damn it. What was I going to do? Well, I'll figure it out. We'll do a little bit more with tables. We'll do a little bit more. Oh yeah, I want to do. I want to kind of show you different functions that you can use with getting information out of the table and manipulating the data in certain ways. So we'll see you tomorrow.